Hello and welcome to our Exchange Server course. In this class we will discuss how to install Exchange Server from the very beginning. This class was created for you by Jonathan Ravzin and Pavel Shostov. You can get full version of this lecture, together with many other lectures, on our website www.practicu.com. So, how do we install Exchange Server 2010 from the very beginning for all the computers of a given company? In the very beginning, we have an empty Active Directory server with nothing on it but DC promo. We can see our company folder here without a single computer in it yet. And we have one domain controller, which is our server itself. Our second server will be the Exchange Server. Exchange Server is the member of the work group. It's not even a domain member, but to install it, we need to be inside of the domain. This is because Exchange, our email server, stores user data, like email addresses, inside Active Directory. It doesn't have its own user records, but it uses user data and settings from Active Directory. So again, Exchange Server doesn't have its own user records. Exchange Server uses user data from Active Directory. So, while our Exchange Server is installing, let's discuss its functionality. Let's discuss what it can do and why do we need it. In many aspects, it works like, for example, Gmail.com. It has a number of email boxes, and users can access these email boxes and retrieve their emails from there. Exchange Server program will allow us to build our own email server. Just like a Gmail, it will contain users' email boxes, and any user with email client, let's say Outlook, will be able to access their own email box and retrieve emails from it. Exchange Server can communicate with email client programs, so it is possible to view emails from different email clients and all kinds of devices. Also, email server will be responsible for fighting unwanted advertisement and spam. We will filter it. Our company will have its own email service. So, I have connected server to the domain and I've inserted CD with Microsoft Exchange 2010 into CD drive. Where can I get this CD from? From Microsoft website. Let's go to Google and type there Exchange 2010 ISO download, and let's add Microsoft to cut away unreliable sources. We can download it with a service pack or without it, and it doesn't really matter. Service pack is just a bundle of patches and updates which will fix recently discovered errors or add some functionality. We need to download ISO file and create DVD disk from it. The resulting DVD is our Exchange Server installation disk. Here you can also see a link to download virtual hard drive, VHD. VHD is a pre-configured version of program and is good only to try out the Exchange Server. In any real-life situation, you will use ISO because you cannot use pre-configured version. Indeed, Active Directory settings will be different for each company. So this is the place to get your installation DVD. In our video, we will install Exchange Server without service pack from installation disk created from ISO image file. So let's install it. Let's see. First, very important moment is that I use Windows Server 2008 R2. It is basically Windows 7 for servers. There is also Windows Server 2008 without R2, and it is basically Windows Vista for servers. System requirements for installing Exchange Server on Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2008 R2 will be slightly different, and I suggest you use Windows Server 2008 R2. Also, please keep in mind that all the versions of Windows Server, like for example Windows Server 2003, cannot be used. So whatever you choose, go for Windows Server 2008. Here we are using Enterprise Edition, and I suggest you to do the same. You can use Standard Edition of Windows Server 2008, but some useful features of Exchange Server 2010 are not supported by the Standard Edition of Windows Server. For example, Standard Edition doesn't support database availability groups. This feature allows us to create and automatically maintain exact copy of our server. In case something goes wrong with the main copy of our server, its second reserve copy will automatically take its place and no interruption of service will occur. Okay, now let's see what are the prerequisites for Exchange Server 2010. We will do it the hard way. If you want to do it an easy way, just go and Google Exchange Server 2010 prerequisites. We will do it differently. So, we have our computer, and our computer is in the domain. It is important. We've inserted Exchange Server 2010 installation disk, and we can see that it requires .NET 3.5 Service Pack 1. Also, it requires PowerShell 2, because remember, right now we are dealing with R2 server. Before continuing to another prerequisites, let's first deal with these two. Actually, PowerShell is already installed on our computer, so I just click on step 1. Oh, it suggests us to download it from website. It is possible solution, but unnecessary for us, because we are dealing with Windows Server 2008 R2, and .NET Framework is included in its features. So I right-click on Features and choose Add Feature. Here is .NET Framework. Let's install it. Perhaps it will ask us to install something else along the way, and now we just got to wait. So after .NET will be installed, we will have to install PowerShell version 2. In our case, it is unnecessary because we already have it. And then we will choose the language, and we will start the installation of Exchange itself. So we can see that .NET is installed now, so is PowerShell. In case you are wondering, PowerShell is a command line interface, like all other shells, like Bash shell, like CMD. Let's choose the language. We can take it from language bundle, or we can take it from DVD disk. We will take English language from DVD. There is a good chance that it will be your choice as well. And now we proceed to install Exchange itself. This part is the most interesting one for us right now. From the very beginning, we got to decide what is the purpose of our mail server. There are a few different tasks that can be assigned to it. For example, it can be a server that will store email boxes themselves, or it might be a server that will filter emails, get rid of spam, and pass good, legal emails to the user's email boxes. Or will it be the server that handles communications with users? Server that understands POP3, IMAP, secure HTTP protocols. So there are different roles that your Exchange server can fulfill. You can choose for your server to fulfill all of these roles simultaneously. And it will be the natural choice in case you create email server for a small company, in case you expect that there won't be too many users. You expect low load. But if you are setting up server for large company, if you expect high load, high amount of users trying to reach their email boxes, in this case, you will create few separate Exchange servers, each one carrying out its own task, fulfilling its own role. So, as you can see, we can choose typical installation and install all the roles on the same server. Or we can choose custom installation, and in this case, we are free to choose which roles our server will fulfill. In the bottom, you can see the address, the folder in which our Exchange server will be installed. The first role that we choose for our server is a mailbox role. It means that our server will physically store email boxes, physically store emails. Later, we will create cluster. We will create automatic copy of all our mailboxes. And in case the main copy for any reason stops functioning, our backup copy will replace it and keep our server working. As you can see, here we have a short descriptions for the server roles. Second role is a client access role. It means handling communications with users. In case of large company and large number of clients, you don't want to allow users direct access to your mailbox server. It's not safe. It's a good idea to have separate mailbox and client access servers. Mailbox server cannot be accessed directly by anyone except client access server. And client access server is opened for interactions with users. When user wants to access his emails, he connects to client access server and requests emails. Client access server takes emails from mailbox server and returns them to user. User cannot directly access mailbox server. It's a nice scheme to keep mailbox server and emails stored on it safe. But again, if you want to create small email server or you are limited in resources, you can create single server that will handle all the server roles, including mailbox role and client access role. Also, it is pretty obvious, but very important. You got to make sure your client access server always open to communications with users. You got to make sure client access server got its ports opened. The next role is a hub transport role. Hub transport server will be our email postman. This server will control the flow of emails inside our email service. No matter who is the sender and who is the receiver, any email inside our email service will go through our hub transport center. This is where incoming email will be directed to the correct mailbox. And this is where outgoing email will be sent to internet. Also, hub transport server will be in charge of filtering emails. It will determine if the email complies with the rules set for your email service. And as a system administrator, you of course have the full control over these rules. Also, hub control server will get rid of the spam. It is very important to make sure that your hub transport server got its port 25 opened. Through port 25, your hub transport server will communicate with all other components of your email service. By the way, you can see that I'm assigning all the roles to the single Exchange server. Why is that? Because we are creating email service for the small company. To give you some idea of what is considered small in case of Exchange server, 30, 50, 80 users, it is a small email service. Exchange can easily handle thousands of users. I'd say if you plan to have less than 500 users, go ahead and assign all the roles to a single Exchange server. The only possible reason to split the roles between different servers in case of small company is the security. Indeed, if you assign all the roles to a single server and someone hacks this server, in this case, this person will have the access to all the components of your email service, including email boxes stored on the mailbox component. So we choose all the roles, mailbox, client access and hub transport for the single server. Here you can also see unified messaging role. This component allows your server to perform a number of advanced tricks. For example, your Exchange server can also handle voice messages. So your server will no longer be just a pure email server, but also will deal with voicemail, voice messages. Considering other unified messaging features, you can say that it is the attempt to mix together email service and phone service. Anyway, mailbox role, client access role and hub transport is the minimum necessary to keep our server functioning. Mailbox stores the emails, client access deals with clients and clients' requests, and hub transport is our email postman. regulating the flow of